Finally. So I think it's fair to say I had a bit of a technical nightmare, which I still haven't quite fixed. So I decided just to, come on anyway. Hang on, let's just figure this out. So there we go. That should work now. All right. So I was going to be playing some music and sort of talking you through how I was thinking about this. For some reason, and I had it all sorted before the previous live stream on the Make Music Your Life channel, but for some reason, all of a sudden, I can't get music, or there's no sound coming out of a particular output. It's a virtual output that I'd set up. And it was working absolutely fine before. So I tried everything I could think of, including doing a full shutdown of my computer, which then meant I had to go through a whole series of steps in order to get other things working, because that's just what I have to do, which explains the incredible lateness of me coming on here. So instead of me actually playing music, I thought I would... instead of, because it could have, it could take me an hour to figure out what on earth is going on. And this is all just part of it, isn't it? This is all part of the process of getting to the point where, you can release a track a week. I mean, I have been live streaming every day. I had a break actually, but I have been live streaming every day. So I do know how to do this, but there's just been some unexplained issue that I can't seem to figure out what it is. And probably what will happen is at some point today, I'll suddenly go, oh, I know, I forgot to push this button or something like that. Anyway, just talking through my approach to this crazy plan of releasing a track a week on top of doing the live streams that I'm going to kick off again. And I was intending on this live stream to actually play some music, but that doesn't look like that's happening. I'm going to do a kind of a specific thing, which is essentially setting myself certain limitations and rules. It's almost like playing games with myself, essentially. Let me just, as you can see, I'm a bit all over the place. Let me just see if I can. Because the other thing that happened today, because I've got a Stream Deck, which is how you change the, you can change camera things, and that stopped working as well. So I seem to have had an attack of the gremlins today. So the technical gremlins. But we mustn't complain, because we wouldn't be able to do these things at all without technology. But it can be quite frustrating when you think you've got everything sorted, and for some reason now, there we go. So. Basically, as you can see here, let me just make this bigger so I can see what you're seeing. I've got and let me just get rid of me. So I'm having to do this camera changing with me clicking on a computer screen, which makes it much harder. So I've got a fair amount of stuff here that I could be playing with, but I'm not going to start out by using all of it. So I've got the piano, and that's actually coming out of another computer here, and it's going through these pedals here, which I can turn off and on, obviously, into the main computer over here. And I've also got the things that are making sound. These are the options I've got. I'm not going to use them all though. I've also got the DFAM, the subharmonicon, the Mother 32, and an Electron Model Cycles. And I think, yeah, that's it. So those are all, piano VST. I can, of course, choose to use other sounds other than a piano. But at the moment, I'm just sticking to a piano because it's amazing what you can do with just one sound, particularly when you put it through this kind of stuff. Those three Moogs and electron model cycles. But I'm not going to use all of that because essentially I'm going to take the approach of, I mean, really for me, releasing this music is the main reason for doing it for me isn't about really building an audience, because that's kind of happening anyway. It's not about, it's not really about the end result. What it is for me, and the reason I wanted to do it, even though there was a part of me that was like, oh God, can't I? But the main reason for me of doing it is because in doing the live streams every day, where I was basically learning how to compose live, and I do call it live composition, not jamming. I do jam as well, but that's different to live composing. So composing and producing live, that's how I think about it. I mean, it didn't always happen, and it wasn't that it ended up happening. It was like sometimes it did happen and sometimes it didn't happen. But it was challenging to stop it from happening, which was, it was either I was spinning my wheels, so everything was kind of too easy and I would just do it, right? And it felt, in that sense, it just felt like I was spinning my wheels, or it was, I would make it too hard for myself in terms of everything that I was doing. And I would kind of, it would be difficult. Well, not difficult exactly. Well, it was difficult, but it would be boring for me in that way. Now, I've got a terrible fear of boredom. It's my biggest fear, really. And I've found that actually the biggest problem for me was the spinning my wheels problem. So in other words, if you're not a English speaker, what spinning your wheels means is sort of just calling it in. I'm using another metaphor, kind of not making it hard enough. It's almost like not sort of half thinking about it and not being particularly engaged in it. Now, this didn't always happen. As I said, it's not something that necessarily was a problem, because when I noticed it happening, I did certain things to sort it out. But the reason for me for releasing the music is to create some sense of risk, really, to increase the feeling that there's some sort of downside to it not going well. Because in order to kind of create that kind of sort of zone-like feeling, there has to be some form of risk. Plus, on top of that, by actually mixing and mastering the pieces, some of the pieces that I do, I will actually learn more about how to improve the pre-production stuff that I'm doing beforehand, because it's almost like just recording live and then not having to sort out the problems that occur from the way that you've done things means that you don't actually focus on those problems. So in other words, I mean, because of my goal really is to get to the point, and I know I can do it, is to get to the point where I can literally perform the piece of music, and then all that needs to be done in order to get it to a release, live compose the piece of music, and then to get it, all that needs to be done to get it to a release state is a bit of limiting, volume. Yeah. But I'm nowhere near that right now because I'm not preparing them for release. And so therefore I'm not focusing on the things that I can do to the setup, and also the things I need to practice. Because when you're live composing, there's a lot of live mixing going on, in terms of level and space and, that kind of thing. And I wanted to show you some of this stuff today, but I don't know what happened. So that's the reason. Let me just get my comments up. As I said, everything's going wrong today. Why is that not working? Oh, you're down there. You're hiding, window. So I'll just say hello to everyone. Hello, Kev. Hi, Tim. Hi, Robin. Hi, Alex. And hello, Mr. Hugh. Basically, me finishing the pieces of music are going to help me not have to finish the pieces of music in the future. That's basically the idea. I mean, when I say not finish, not have to do less of what I'm doing, because in the context of what I'm doing, ideally, I don't want to have to do any mixing eventually. But to get there, I need to mix it so I know what I am having to mix. Yeah, what I'm having to fix, if you like. So really, I'm looking at my mixes as to a certain extent, a fixing thing more than an artistic thing, because the artistic part of mixing is going to be done in how I set things up and what I actually do in the process of live composing and live producing this music. And in terms of, oh yeah, Robin's saying, what a stressor, you poor thing. It's a bloody nightmare when the text doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, I actually don't think it's too much of a nightmare. I have to admit, I did scream at one point, but it happens, and you do get to the point where it's just like, you do what you can, and it doesn't really matter. Again, I've always got to remind myself when things don't work, it's like, well, just isn't it amazing that I'm talking to people probably in like 4 different continents from a shed in Queensland, Australia, and I've got all of this wonderful equipment and all of this, which is relatively incredibly cheap actually compared to the way it used to be, and all of these opportunities to make music and actually play it live to people. You got to remember that when the technology breaks down or doesn't work and you start like shaking your fist at reality, sometimes you just got to say, hey, it's actually a wonderful situation that we find ourselves in. So anyway, coming back to how I'm doing what I'm doing. So if my purpose, and this is really important for almost everything that I think we do, is you want to be clear on the purpose of what you're doing, of any given thing that you're doing. What is the purpose of this? So for me, the purpose of releasing a track a week is, a side effect would be to grow an audience, yeah, but it's not the purpose. I am focused on becoming an amazing musician, on becoming an amazing live musician. That's my goal. Okay, whatever amazing means. If I was a coach, if I was coaching myself, I'd probably say to myself, if I'd said that to myself as a client, how will you know when that's happened? So that's something I've got to figure out. How will you know when you are an amazing live composer, shall we say, or live producer? But anyway, I'm going off on one. So if the purpose of me releasing a track a week is to shorten the route to me becoming an amazing live producer, composer, musician, whatever you want to call it, then what I do has to be optimized for that goal, right? So, think for yourself right now. If your goal, let's kind of compare the two goals. On the one hand, you've got a goal of, my goal with releasing a track a week is to build the biggest possible audience on the one hand. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's a bad goal. I'm not saying that's a bad purpose, right? At all. It's just not my purpose. Okay. It's just one that I haven't chosen. Right. So on the one hand, is to grow the biggest possible audience as quickly as possible. And on the other side, your goal is to become the best live composer, producer, musician you possibly can through the project of a track a week. In the comments now, if there's anyone still with me, in the comments now, what would the differences be? What would the differences be between what you would do if you were optimizing for the first goal? What would you do differently between the first goal and the second goal? The first goal being building the biggest audience as quickly as possible through these releases, yeah. And the second, becoming the best producer, live musician, live composer you possibly can. What were the things that you would do differently, like in terms of actually the music itself? What would you not be doing in one case, and what would you be doing in the other case? Any ideas? Post in the comments. So Blind says simplify. I'm presuming you mean simplify if you're looking to become the best. I'm presuming that's what you mean. Absolutely. That's definitely one. Any others? Any other ideas? Robin, focus on the playing. Absolutely. Any other ideas? I'm just trying to sort out this fade thing because I'm a bit... There we go. Any other ideas? What would you do differently? I mean, what becomes more important when you're focused on becoming the best, or becoming the best you can? I don't mean the best. I mean, yeah, focusing on improving yourself rather than the biggest audience. Robin, not so worried about the sound design, etc. Well, depends on the kind of artist you want to be. I mean, if sound design, and it's funny you should say that, Robin, because I actually am focusing on the sound design. I'm not quite calling it sound design though. It's more sound discovery, in that I'm actually live sound designing. So I'm not sure the type of action that you take, like it's almost like, because sound design is a creative action just as much as anything else. Right? So again, that depends on the kind of artist you are or want to be. So if you were the kind of artist who wanted to make amazing sounds, then you would actually, if you wanted to become the best artist, you would then focus on the sound design, wouldn't you? Or you would focus on the sound. Design is a tricky word. Don't worry about the mistakes. Well, that's a really good point, Blinds. It's maybe, yes, don't worry about the mistakes, but you would pay attention to the mistakes in a different way, wouldn't you? So what would you do with those mistakes if you were focused on improvement rather than building the biggest audience? If you're focused on building the biggest audience, then you are worried about the mistakes. Because why? Because what you're probably focused on is people thinking badly of you or the music because you've made those mistakes. I mean, that makes sense, I think. It makes sense to me. That's how I kind of feel about it anyway. Whereas now I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's wrong. Like, again, I'm not saying that wanting to build the biggest audience as quickly as possible is the wrong move, right? But there's a reason I personally have chosen a different goal for this project. Yeah. And so in a world where you're focused on building the biggest audience, it's largely about the actual results, the piece. Every single piece is something which it's like what Tim said on the previous live stream over on Make Music Your Life, where he was talking about your tracks are like salesmen, a mini salesman. Now, that's absolutely true, and it's a way of thinking about it, but it's not the way I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about my tracks because I'm not focused on that goal. Not because it's not important, but just because I'm not at this stage, right? Not because I'm scared. It's not that. It's just I feel that I need to, and motivated to have a different purpose. And that purpose is improving as a musician. So if I'm focused on improving as a musician, you're absolutely right, Blinds. I'm not worried about my mistakes. My mistakes are what is telling me what to do next. So it's not that I'm actively encouraging mistakes, right? It's that I am seeing my mistakes for what they actually are, which is something to tell me what to do next. Probably not. It doesn't have to be on the track that is about to come out. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, this is also because a lot of the mistakes will have been made live and they'll have to be fixed in future live things. Again, I'm optimizing. I mean, even the choice of doing this live is pointing towards this thing. I'm moving away from it's all about the result. And I'm moving everything to it's all about the process. Yes, I am using the results in order to tweak, change, improve, practice my process. But it's that way around. That's why live music, that's why I love it so much and why I struggle so much. And I always have, even though I've released a lot of produced, like DAW produced music. Yeah. And by the way, you can actually play live in a DAW. But anyway, but when I say produced music, even though I've released a lot of that, I've always struggled with it because it's so focused on perfecting the result. It doesn't have to be, but it tends to be. Okay, we've got some more here. Dermot, to become the best musician, I am paying attention to the feedback from my practice, what I did well and not well, and how to improve next. Exactly. Alex, for the audience, I'd focus on each track as a standalone story, and for myself, I'd think of each track as an arc towards building my storytelling. Yes, exactly. So it's funny you should say that, Alex, because that's exactly what I'm thinking about. I'll come on to that the way I'm setting up for myself, at least for the first test, if you like. I'll come on to that in a sec. Absolutely, Kev. Mistakes are feedback. Dermot, if I am focused on audience numbers, I am tracking what things I did got me more views and taking that as feedback. Yeah. Now, I'll come back to that in a second. Blinds, work on those areas the mistakes are in because that's where quicker growth and development might come. Exactly. So one thing, Dermot, and I think this is something that we want to watch out for. I'm not saying it's wrong. I think there is a certain element of, if you are focused on building the audience as quickly as possible, you could well take that approach. There is a danger with taking that approach, however. There is a danger with taking that approach, however, and that's that it is likely to take us away from our authentic selves as artists. You're pushing towards more of all right, so I have a brief that the market is giving me, and I'm going to conform to that brief. Now, that is your choice. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to do this, Dermot, so I'm not talking to you particularly. I'm talking to anyone who is kind of thinking in that way. This is an opinion now, right? And I know I'm not right about this. This is my opinion. I believe what the world needs is more art and maybe not less craft, but it needs more artists who are focused on their unique contribution to the world. And I think there is an element, and this is a tension within an artist, there is an element of ignoring, to a certain extent, your audience in that. At the same time as also appreciating your audience. So you really care about them, but at the same time, you kind of ignore them. And I think this is another reason why I've opted for a slightly different goal with this track a week than growing my audience. One of the things I noticed when I started doing the live streams every day this time last year was that I started to get zeroed in on how many people were coming to the thing. And I started to look at what they were saying, what people were saying in the comments, and seeing which ones were the ones that they liked, and how could I do more of that, and all of that kind of stuff. And it really did start to distort what it was that I was doing, and I got very confused. And I think one of the things we want to think about as human beings is that it's all about incentives. What conditions are you creating for yourself by the goals that you're, or the approach that you're taking? And it was actually a real blessing that I had to stop doing the hour-long live streams and came into this shed, and there wasn't a door on it, so I just started doing the solo piano, because that kind of instantly reduced the audience. I wasn't kind of promoting, I wasn't posting the things anywhere. I was just doing it, and the audience went down, and it was actually a massive. It was just like, okay, it became much more, and I do understand what artists say about the purity of it. Having said that, though, that it's not enough just to leave it there and go, well, if I build it, they will come. That's not what I'm suggesting. And again, this is the tension and the difficulty of being an artist, and the difficulty of being authentic is that it's almost like by definition, the market, other people, the audience, your audience are going to create a certain incentive structure, which might be in direct opposition to what you actually want to do. And it's very hard to know what you want to do when there are all of these kind of signals coming at you. Okay. So what I am, so this is another reason why I'm choosing to use these, like actually focus on improvement of myself. Because the other thing is, it's the one thing that, to a certain extent, not completely, I can also control. I'm a bit of a control freak. so it's one thing that I can control is my response to what I do. I can't control your response to what I do. And by the way, sometimes I can't actually control my own response to what I do, so, as my team will tell you, and as actually probably some of you will have noticed as well, when I kind of get impatient or frustrated sometimes. So yeah, I can somewhat control my response, and even if I do lose control, then I can make up for it. I can do something about it, right? Whereas I really can't do an enormous amount about what people think. Okay. And so while you want to pay attention to the market to a certain extent, and maybe get inspired by it, or maybe get ideas from it, or maybe think about how you can use what you're seeing or what people are saying to put into the pot of your experimentation and your own journey, it's different to, okay, so what do they like? I'm going to do more of that. That is, I think, a date. Well, if you want to be an artist, which is what I want to be, rather than a craftist, it's a dangerous path. It's not a wrong path. It's not something that I look down upon. It's not something that I judge, but it is a dangerous path for an artist if that's what you want to do. So, these are brilliant ideas in here. So, in short, I'm focused on these releases being my homework, if you like. So I'll listen to, it's release day. I've released it. I've got this thing. I've noticed in the finishing of the thing what wants to be improved, where the mistakes are, where it's like it sounds crap. There's a big foggy area around there. And I'm going to use that to improve the setup and improve how I use the setup. Okay, use that data. So there's going to be a number of different times at which because I think in order to do this, and I know there's a objection out there to the way that I suggest you do things and the way that I do things, where I'm actually taking quite a analytical, in some ways, approach to making music, a systematized approach to making music. And it's quite funny because it depends what I'm talking about, what objections I get. Sometimes people will go, "Oh no, God, you can't! You're taking the magic away." And by the way, I was only pulling your leg, Robin, when I said that. But you're taking away the magic by doing all of these things like reviewing and making lists and the systematization and all that kind of the system. You're taking the magic away, and then on the other hand, when I'm saying, right, just splurge, just go for it, just have fun, just let your wildest imagination run wild. And then people go, oh yeah, no, but what about quality? And it's like, guys, I'm saying both of these things. Let your imagination run wild. Go for it. Experiment. Have fun. Do the opposite. Do all of those crazy, like experimental, creative things. Just have the time of your life. And then step back, look at that thing and go, what am I, how can I improve that? So in other words, what I'm suggesting you do and what I do, what I actually do is both. Be wild and free, and also use that amazing thing that human beings have, which is the ability to think what doesn't exist. Yeah. Think, wow, what are the problems? How can I improve them? And be analytical about it. So there are a number of different points at which I'm thinking I'm going to be looking at what I've done. So I do it. So I'll do a splurge. When I say a splurge, it's not quite a splurge because I am actually composing a piece of music. It's not complete, yeah. But it's funny, through the practice of doing this over almost a year, day after day, the difference between me splurging and live streaming is that there's very little difference. Yeah. So I'll be composing a piece of music and I'll do it. And sometimes it'll be good. Sometimes it'll be bad. At the end of that thing, I'm going to do a review. Depending on the amount of time I've done, I might do another take of that exact track in that session, then do another wins, problems, opportunities review. Oh, and by the way, if I do it immediately, I will tweak things in order, as a result of that, I'll give myself 5 or 10 minutes to do that. So exactly what I teach in the automatic music machine with splurging. And I'll be exporting all these things. I'll be putting all the, recording the various different parts, because basically I've got, how many tracks? Let's have a look. Move this window out of the way. What time is it? Oh, cool, we've got a bit of time. So, here we go. Can you see that? Oh no, you can't. Hang on. I might have to change the primary display. There we go. So the things I'm recording, I've got this many things I can record. Oops, sorry, I'm in the way. There we go. So I've got this many tracks that I can record into. But here you can see on the screen, I'm just going the way here. Hang on. These really are the main ones. Okay, so I'm going to be there'll be some mono files and some stereo files, and I'll really be mixing and mastering those stems, if you like. I'll be doing very little editing, just light editing, if at all. To be honest, the main editing I will be doing is muting things. I've tried it before. I'm not going to be cutting out huge chunks of things. I'm just going to, if I've done some massive error, I'm just going to mute that part for a bit to get the thing finished. And if there's a bit of a gap, I'll probably add like some kind of effect, some kind of delay effect to make up for the gap that's there or something. I don't know. That's basically what I'm looking to do, is get the release to a release state where I'm like, okay, so that's good enough. It's not perfect. It never will be. But I've had to fix that mistake with some kind of, it's almost like hacking your way into it. Yeah. That will then mean, because I had to fix that mistake, I'm like, well, I don't want to have to fix that mistake next time. My goal is to be able to literally have the parts and just put them through a limiter so that they're loud enough and then I'm done. That's my goal. I don't, or even just have the stereo file and then put that through a limiter. But you know, I'm nowhere near that yet. So in the mixing, what I'll do is identify the mistakes. So at the end of that, I will also do a review. I will be noting down the mistakes in my automatic music machine, and then again applying that to how I upgrade the setup and how I change what I do, probably by simplifying what I do. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah. By the way, Robin, I did actually all of the stuff. I think all of the stuff that's currently on my Bandcamp from last year was stereo. Was a stereo. So it's not that I'm picky. It's just that I'm looking to improve. So yeah, I'm probably at the stage now where I can go beyond that. But I think that's a great idea, Robin. Start with just a stereo file. That's what I did. Again, lower the bar. So yeah. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And so I'm starting today. As I said, I wanted to actually play something for you. I actually want to do my first splurge right here, right now. I mean, I even got the T-shirt on for it, but unfortunately, the technical gremlins haven't allowed me to do that. But basically, from these Zental live streams, I think I'm going to do a bit more. So because before they were very just playing the music, but I'm recording the file. I'm recording the different files anyway. So probably what I'm going to think about doing is doing a bit more playing and talking in between to actually narrate. Okay, so I just played that little piece, and I'll probably, at first anyway, we'll see how it goes, because I don't want to say this is definitely what I'm going to do for an entire year. It's just like, this is my idea at this point is, let's say I do half an hour live stream in a day, and I'm going to do it every day. Maybe I'll record a couple of takes of whatever the idea is that day. I'm not going to be super hardcore about I must do a new idea every day or anything like that. The number one thing is the release every week. So whatever is in service of that is going to happen. So it could well be that I do 4 different takes or 6 different takes over 2 days of the same track, if you like. It might not be. It might well be that in some weeks I end up doing 7 different splurges. But I'm really going to follow my feeling about it. It's just to kind of release. It's like letting go of anything other than what is the route I believe to the most improvement for me. Not what is the route to the very best piece of music this week. Not that, but what do I think I need to do now, and how I will know that, how I will decide that, and I might be wrong, of course, in any given moment, but how I will decide that is because I'm doing the constant reviewing. I will then decide, right, I've done enough takes of that for now, I'm going to move on to the next one. In the I'm just trying to think, if I'm going to get the first thing, and haven't thought this through yet, but if I'm going to get the first thing, so if I'm starting today, and I am going to start today, it will just be on another stream. If I do the first one today, let me say, what date is it? So it's Wednesday. If I release on a Friday, so I'm going to give myself an extra 2 days just because I'm starting out. So if I release a week on Friday, okay, then probably by this time next week, I need to have decided what it is I'm going to release so that I can do a very simple mix and master of whatever the thing is that I've decided. So I'm going to have 7, maybe not 7 tracks, but I'm certainly going to have 7 days worth of sessions to choose from. Okay. And because I'm doing it live, I'm not going to worry too much about the listening thing. It's funny when you live compose something, and then you tweak it and you do another take, and then you tweak that and do another take. Because I'm not going to be, if let's say I've got 3 different takes of the same tune, basically, yeah, the same piece. I'm going to start calling things pieces because I'm bored of saying song or track or tune. Right? I'm just going to start calling things pieces. Right. So if I've got 3 different takes of the same piece, I am not going to spend any time editing the best bits out of each one. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not. Not my vibe. What I'm going to do is, at the point at which I decide what it is I'm going to release, I'm going to choose between which is the best take and just use that one take. That's the approach I'm going to take right now. At some future state, I may well do something different, but that's just what I'm going to do now because I just know I haven't got the time. So my plan is this time next week, I will have decided which is going to be the first release. So I'm actually starting from cold. My automatic music machine is completely empty, as I think probably most people have seen. It's going to open up the wrong thing, isn't it? It's going to open up. I know, it's great. Yeah, I've just got to move these splurges out of the way into the sketchbook. Yeah, so I'll do it now. There you go. Hello, come on. There you go. So yeah, I've just got to move these in. I haven't listened to them. Don't matter. And on top of that, something that you might find interesting is, hang on a minute. With any of the pieces that you hear, if you would like to try doing a remix, right, of any of them, then let me know. Because I will find a way to send you the parts. Now, there's a rule to this, because I can't just be sending you all of the parts to everything, because there's just gigabytes and gigabytes of stuff. If you hear something that I do and you like a particular show, even if it's something that I'm not going to release, and you think, oh, I'd really love to have a go at doing a version of that, then let me know what date the thing was that you wanted, and we will figure out. I will get you the audio files. Okay, and if I like the thing that you send back to me, we can think about releasing it. Or even if I like the ideas that you've got and there's some work that needs to be done, well, I'm not promising anything because it depends on what happens, but maybe I'll even work with you to kind of get it to a state which is finished, and then I can release it. The only rule with that though is that you're not allowed to be working on more than one at a time. Okay, so I want that one. Oh, I want that one. So you got like 10, yeah? So if you want one, I'll ask for it. And then you have to deliver something to me. Otherwise, you can't have another one, okay? So that is a fun little thing that you might enjoy doing. But, obviously, it's totally optional. So that's the other thing. I'm going to get a bit of audience involvement in it here as well. The other thing that I'm going to do is as I said, set myself little games. So in order to improve as quickly as possible, I'm going to set myself certain rules, probably by the week, right? So there's going to be a certain, because really each week is about making a release, a piece of music that kind of sort of says something. So I'm going to be setting myself certain rules which have a certain destination in mind. So a certain, what is it that I'm trying to improve? A certain inspiration in mind. So what is it that I'm trying to say? What is the purpose of the music? Yeah. A certain set of regulations. So in other words, when I'm actually making the music, what are the rules that I'm using? I'm not allowed, so for instance, a good example of this is I'm only going to use one hand. Yeah. Or I'm only going to use 3 fingers, or I'm using a certain I don't know, motivic thing, and also a set of limitations. So in other words, what is the gear that I'm allowed to use? And what I'm going to kick off this week is, and that final one is really about the setup. So one of the mistakes that I have made very often is I make things way too complicated and I change too much all at once. And I'm currently in that situation because I've had a break in preparation for this release thing, and I've had a break, and I'm going to and I've changed things around a lot. I've got a MIDI fighter. I don't know if you can see that. Got one of these. Oh, yeah, I've got a MIDI fighter here. So I've been mapping my ass off, and obviously when you do that, I mean, here you can see. Let me just show it to you. So this MIDI fighter, where is it? It's up here. No, it's down. Right. So these are the different screens of the MIDI fighter. So you can like scroll through different screens, and I've mapped various things to various things here. The trouble is I can't really remember what a lot of them are, and also trying to see this just massive list of knobs here and trying to remember what they are. You just got to kind of practice it. So that's one of the main things I'm doing, because one of the things I'm really excited about is turning, like in terms of sound design, Robin, is playing with what I'm doing with the piano, and on the one hand I've got all of these I've got this kind of pedal stuff, but then that's also going to, and I'll drag this stuff over here. I've already done a live stream just on the Megaverb, on the Megaverb thing, and also Supermassive, but sort of thinking about creating these, if you like, MIDI pedals with various different effects, where I can actually create these kinds of incredible soundscapes live. So part of my composition process is going to be this sound design thing, but live sound design, if you like, where you're actually making something happen, and we're using plugins, but also a bit of hardware. So I've got both of those options available. And the rule for, so obviously there's a lot to think about right now. So my rule, at least my limitation, I can start there and I'll think about the regulations later and the destinations and the inspirations, but my limitation is I'm only allowed to use the DFAM. I'm allowed to use the electron model cycles, but only for a kick, hat, and snare. Okay, so I've got kick, hat, and snare, the DFAM, and a piano through the stuff. Now that is absolutely loads. I mean, that is pushing the, I think I'm going beyond my stretch zone, given that I've got all of that mapping going on with new mapping with the MIDI fighter. But that's where I'm going to start. I might actually also say, no, I'm going to leave it at that and see how it goes. If after the first couple of splurges, I do a review and I go, it's just way too overwhelming, then I'm going to reduce the limitations that I do. And on these live streams, what I'm going to do, what I'm actually going to do is tell you what the destination, inspiration, limitation, and regulations are as well, so that you can actually see me. Like, I'm really going to be like giving you the inside scoop, the insight on how I'm thinking about what I'm doing. Because I just think if make music your life is about here's some things to do this, do that, like here's some ways of thinking about it. What I would like these Zentor streams to be, because now that I'm adding the music, the kind of music will be there. I'll also do performances with no talking as well. I'm going to do some of those as well. But the kind of daily live streams are going to be me actually doing the things and talking about the things that I'm doing that we talk about on Make Music Your Life. because then I think, we get the best of all possible worlds. It keeps me honest, actually, when I share with you, like through speaking, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how I'm thinking about it. It really does keep me on the straight and narrow. It's so easy to just enter wheel spinning territory or just faffing around with changing things around and everything. So it will actually be of benefit to me, and hopefully it will be incredibly useful to you as well. And of course, because I'm going to be doing it every day, it's probably way, there's going to be way too much for you to catch up with it all, but don't worry about that. Just, look at what you can, and share it with people who you think might benefit from it as well. So I think that is everything I kind of wanted to say. As I said, I did want to make some music, but that's not worked today. I am still on the Sunshine Coast. We have a place in Koroiba on the Sunshine Coast right now. So, does anyone have any questions before I finish up? Anyone have any questions? Everyone hit like. Thank you, Robin. Yes, that would be wonderful. So it looks like I'm going to have to do another splurge live stream later on after I've got my work done, which is unfortunate because I was hoping to have done it all in this one live stream. Best of luck with Track Week. Thank you, Dave. It'll be fine. I mean, at the end of the day, as I was saying to Alex, it's almost like a track a week could be too easy. I don't know, a track a week would be too easy. I don't mean that. What I mean is I can play a piano piece through the Megaverb and the Supermassive, right? So I could do that. I could just do a solo piano piece through Megaverb and Supermassive, and it'd be pretty good. I mean, I would do a few of them, and I pick one, and it would be pretty good. It would be that. It's fairly easy to do that, given the amount that I've done before, all of the practice that I've done, right? So, and then all I would need to do is literally put that through a limiter, because then there really would be, maybe there would be 2 different or even 3 different files, depending on whether I routed the effects out separately. So it would be an incredibly simple job to mix that. I mean, maybe that's what I will end up doing once I try this 3 different things, the DFAM and the electron model cycles and the piano. I mean, it probably sounds like quite a good idea, but I just want to try something harder. I'm going to start harder and work back from it. So what might end up happening is, on day 5 of this week, I go, oh no, it's not happening. So I'll just end up doing a few piano solos on one day. I'll choose one of them, slap it through a limiter, boom, there's my track a week. So actually to do it, the releasing of the track a week isn't actually that hard, because there's always something that's very easy, right? So actually I'm not too concerned about that part. What I am concerned about is how do I do it so that I get the maximum progress juice out of it? Because if I just did that every week, that wouldn't be getting the maximum progress out of it, unless I wanted to become a solo piano player, which I don't. So I'm not too concerned about that. Luke, any advice on drum rhythms? I tend to keep smashing the same one repeatedly. Well, so do I. I mean, so do I in a way, but okay. It's a shame I can't play anything, because I would play something right now. If you think about, for instance, I think, Luke, you don't make. That's a good question, Dermot. I'll get to it in a second. All right. So with drum rhythms, I'll check the time. All right. I've got 10 minutes. So what I would suggest with drum rhythms, if you want to try different things, is actually have something which is often the same. Okay. So, I mean, let's just take I know you're not writing house music, for instance, but let's just say you were writing house music. Just have the same thing playing, basically, and essentially just change a couple of things. And also, well, change a couple of things around that same thing. So for instance, I've got the kick, the hat, and the clap, right? But then I've also got the defam. The thing is about the defam is that because it's like a kind of, it's very random. It can be very random. You've got the very set thing, which is the electron model cycles, right? And then the defam does these things around it. And because you've got the hook of the electron model cycles doing the same thing, the defam can be quite all over the place, which makes it sound very different. And I think the other thing about drum rhythms is that you want it to be changing over time, so that there's never a point at which well, maybe this is overstating it, but there's never a point at which you get the same thing. So one way of doing this is to set some things up as like the robots use the algorithm. So it's almost like set up some randomness within the actual pattern. Ableton can do it, I think. Electron does it. The defam, that's just basically, depending on how you set it up, you can do that. So that you have some kind of randomness happening. If you can't do that, another way of doing it is if you've got you've got certain things going at 2 bars, other things going at 2 bars loop, other things going at 1 bar loop, other things going at 4 bars loop. Have another part that's going at a 6 bar loop or a 7 bar loop, because then it's changing over time. The other thing is just to set a few things, not everything. So you wouldn't want to do this necessarily if you're using a kick with a kick, but is to have some things where they're kind of various different things are randomly changing about them. So maybe the velocity, or maybe the way it interacts with an LFO, or the sound changes because of this, because that just creates this ongoing feeling, this interest, if you like. Yes, exactly. So you have similarity. It's almost like the regularity of something makes some crazy stuff work really well. If I've got something like then I mean, I'm not saying you have to do that, but yeah, just something just pounding away. I can do all kinds of things around it which keep it interesting, but it's just locked because of that regularity. Dermot, do you splurge the rhythms or are they programmed? The answer to that question is yes. So sometimes sometimes I can do either. I don't have, I mean, when I started doing this, it was like, I have to start from 0. I have worked nothing out. That was the rule for when I was doing these live streams. Now, sometimes things will be programmed, sometimes things won't be programmed. That is something, I mean, on the DFAM, it's very easy because the sequences are knobs, right? Not buttons. It's actually very easy to, you don't really program them, you kind of feel your way into them, if you like. With the electron model cycles, in order to get a really interesting beat that's changing all the time, you do need to do a bit of faff. Like, you press a button and then you change a knob and all that kind of stuff. So if I can do that super fast without pre-programming it, I will do it. But at the end of the day, I mean, there might be some other things I can do because I've not really looked into it that much, but there might be some other things that I can pre-program. So for instance, you can program certain steps to have certain qualities without it having a note. So if I put a note on that step, then it will tend to be quieter. So because that's the stuff that takes a long time. If I do, that's a good idea actually. Thank you for the question. I just thought. So if I do that, so let's say I have a pattern which has no notes in it, but step 4, 6, 11, and 14 are quieter and longer, right? So I actually program it in, but there are no notes on there, but you just, I don't know if you can do that. It'd be cool if you could. Maybe you can. I don't know. We'll find out. So there's probably a way of doing it so that I can set certain things so that if there is a note on that, then it does that. Or there's some kind of random thing where it's like, well, if there's a note on that, then it will or something. Then I will probably play around with not programming anything other than that stuff. Because again, I'm very much about discovery in terms of the actual composition. It's like you work with what the universe presents to you. You make lemonade from lemons rather than, oh no, I haven't got the right lemons. Right? Oh, I haven't got oranges. Yeah, you make lemonade. Yeah, instead, that's just how I love making music. I really, really enjoy it's the risk, it's the fear, it's the, what am I going to do? It's not going to, it's gone wrong. And then something amazing happens. That to me is just pure joy. So, yeah. Brilliant. Well, been great to hang out, folks. So sorry I was late and sorry we didn't get to hear any music. I'm going to have to do my splurge later on today. So I will do that, but I'll be on at some point tomorrow. I'm going to try and make it so that I do actually plan out when the live streams will be. I will attempt to post on the Discord and also on Slack when I do them as well, so that you can catch up and see the ones that I'm doing. As I said, there'll be a bit more talking, and if at any point there's a track you would like to get your hands on, to do a remix of, even if it's one that I don't choose, then let me know in the comments and we will figure out a way of getting you those parts. So until then, onwards and upwards.